His spindly hands curled around the Alaska 47, one of the human-made weapons. The metal was cold, stinging his skin, even when lying dormant. That should have been his first warning of the weapon's true nature. The two smugglers were small, unremarkable aliens, ordinary in every sense. Despite the situation, he remained calm, his aura of authority unwavering, a backbone that kept him in charge. But like a predator eyeing its prey, his instincts began to stir. These humans, if they're making such things, must be simple creatures. "Tell me, are they simple?" he asked. The two looked at each other, shrugged, and replied in unison, "Don't know." Ikis was an agent sent by his race to scout the capabilities of humanity before launching an invasion. "They have to be," he thought, letting out a quick snicker, as if his mind was twitching with excitement. "Look at this thing, it's hilarious." He dangled the gun in front of his sleek, torpedo-like body, making it look small and strange by comparison, like a child holding a stick as a weapon. "Is it even an energy gun?" he questioned, but the two looked at each other, clearly frustrated by the delay. Their kind grew nervous when staying in one place too long, scars of ancestral fears passed down through generations. "You're kidding, right?" he said, shaking his head, smiling, ignorant of the smuggler's restlessness. "Humanity, the apes of Earth, feared across the stars for reasons I can't comprehend. These puny creatures, all this time, have been hiding behind glorified slingshots, advanced pebble throwers. Oh dear, this won't do. We can't let them continue like this, can we?" The two stared blankly at him, but he didn't care for an answer. "No, we can't. It's our duty to relieve humanity of their miserable existence." In that moment, with the cold, dead Alaska 47 in his hand, Ikes decided the fate of his people. He unknowingly wrote a tragic history, unleashing the dogs of war to charge over a hill he hadn't yet seen. Oh dear, what doomed creatures, what doomed, awful creatures. Ikes blinked. "You want?" he asked, shaking his head. The creatures were clearly upset now. "Do you want it or not? You touched it, so you must want it, yes?" Every word was like a penny tossed to the poor. He looked up, pretending to consider their offer as if he ever did in the first place. After enough play, he sneered and dropped the gun to the floor, its cold bounce announcing his true intention. "Keep the trash." "Why would I want this?" The two burst up from their small seats, but their stumpy legs and dense torsos only made them appear even smaller beneath Ikes. He could have easily missed them if he looked straight ahead. In a sense, they were quite literally beneath him. "You touched it, so you must buy it." "This is rare," they insisted, but Ikes walked away, his needle-like legs extending before him like flags planting in fresh dirt with each step. "You bastard," they shouted, shaking their fists. "You touched it and didn't buy it, you EGOT." That was the title given to Ikes and his people, the EGOTs, a name bestowed by all who had the displeasure of knowing them. The creatures of infinite, violent egos. Ikes had already forgotten about the two creatures by the time he entered his ship. A lion cares not for the opinions of sheep, and an EGOT cares not for anything beyond itself. Her crown was simple, small, and rounded across the top of her oval head, silver like the fading light of a star, and somehow just as inspiring. "Speak simply," she commanded as she stood tall on her podium, assuming the pride of her ambitious race, a pride that spanned wider than any galaxy. "I want not for your theatrics, Ikes. Then simple I shall be, O expansive one," he bowed, waving his large arm before him. "Pray to be slaughtered, destined to rid the galaxy of what is. What news do you bring of humanity?" A quiet audience surrounded them, a select few chosen to witness the expansive one hold war council during such a holy ceremony. Only she was allowed to choose who spoke. What of the stories of humanity? What of their fabled wrath and violence? Oh, encompass her, bridger of cosmic distance. The EGOTs were nothing if not pompous, and their leader naturally represented such ideals. An EGOT was proud to pour praise onto their royal one. You would not be afraid of a pebble cast from a bow of string. These humans, they've merely made the bow metal and cast a pebble of steel. These stories you hear are shields of fairy tale falsehoods, crafted with the intent to scare. The council amphitheater was on a comet, arcing above a grand and blue star. The celestial bodies roared in the silence of space, lightly distorted by the transparent shield that allowed the EGOTs to enjoy their pomp. How are you sure? In reality, Ikes had only heard the same stories everyone else had. He'd only seen one weapon, a small piece of war, but that's all he felt he needed. That's all the EGOTs ever needed, an excuse to rally their pride even higher. My all-being great one, it is a simple answer for such as us, for commanders as we are. The stench of prey is unmistakable. I assure you, humans are creatures of dirt, meant only to be stomped. No more words were said, no noise came from the crowd of tall, slender creatures, yet to the honed ear of an EGOT, a standing ovation decorated the cosmos. Their leader nodded. It was a simple, elegant nod, yet it held in its austerity a signal to unleash the metal ships of war, to unshackle the weapons of conquest. Ceremony and great religious splendor were about to be had. The EGOTs were flying to war, flying to claim more land. How splendid, what a holy day it was above the pulsing star, what holy war was about to be had. For after all, the humans were apes, creatures of dirt. All of this was true, self-evident even. What possible miscalculations could the instincts of the grand EGOTs have made? The ships were massive, grand daggers of metal that morphed across Earth's sky, consuming light and drawing it into their silver, uncaring hulls. They were knives descending from the holy heavens, delivering release from unworthy life and rupturing the stillness of those who dared to be unaware. Hold position, Eeks commanded, honored to captain the conquest. His voice had never been greater, never climbed higher in its pride. I wish to speak with them first. Let us see that which we shall soon destroy. A small transport platform spawned out of their flying monolith, bringing Eekas and 4 others onto the planet below. An envoy of humans waited, small and appearing disheveled. The ship touched down like a feather atop water, hardly rousing even a pebble. Eeks lifted his chin high as he descended the staircase that slid out from the transport, hands tight behind his back, barely glancing at the 3 camo-wearing humans. I can finally see the apes. The men were middle-aged, scruffy, and scarred, dressed head to toe in military attire. To Eeks' slight surprise, they matched his aura of indifference. The middle one, a broad and dark-skinned fellow, suddenly raised his hand, signaling Eeks to stop. Startled by the command and his own respect for it, Eeks halted, watching as the strange human, careless and lazy in his movements, propped a leg on a small crate, pulled out a long, tight-rolled cigar, and, with surprising precision, struck a match to light it, shielding the flame from the harsh, arid wind. After igniting the tobacco, he looked up at Eeks, having to raise his gaze significantly to meet his eyes, and idly puffed on his cigar. There was silence. Eeks expected more, but the man just smoked, appearing as content as ever. His 2 comrades didn't even look Eeks's way. What is this? Eeks shook his head, sneering. What is this show? The man took his time, never breaking eye contact, slowly nodding as he smoked, puff after puff. Name's James, he finally said, his voice curt but energetic. Eeks took a moment. All right, one of the men beside James spoke up. Now it's your turn, buddy. Eeks snapped at the assumption of ignorance. I know what an introduction is, he said, shaking his head and brushing off the dust that had already begun to cake his hands. Stars above, must we do such formalities? James shrugged. Suppose not. X was becoming increasingly uneasy with their rampant casualness. Right, he nodded, trying to stay focused and maintain his regal bearing. Right, well, you must understand your situation by now. We've observed your people, studied your weaponry, and we are hold that. James suddenly burst with energy, his eyes so bright and eager that they sent a shiver down Eekas's spine. You wouldn't happen to have come across one of our rifles, would you? Here, look at this. He reached behind him and held up an Alaska 47, smiling behind it. Have you seen something like this before? Yes, Eeks replied, horribly confused. And it was with 2 small fellas, right? 2 little shits who showed it to you? Yes, son of an expletive. James slapped his knee with great joy and turned to the man on his left. Jenkins, I told you those bastards were trying to sell that expletive. That's $20. Eeks shook his head. What? Oh, sorry, buddy, James smiled, puffing his cigar and resting one elbow on his knee. Old Jenkins here thought those 2 fellas were going to eat it. We caught video of them stealing the stuff, and it made the rounds at the old Pentagon. The man behind him shrugged. What was I supposed to think? Not some dumb expletive. Anyways, James rolled his hand. Sorry, buddy, you were just getting on about how you were going to try to conquer us and all. Why, yes, I was. Eeks stepped back. Try? It was a jab, the first strike of a fight. Eeks blinked, his chest swelling with pride. He couldn't contain the anger rising in him and spat out his next words, as if educating unruly children. Our people, the great claimers of the galaxy, we do not try. There is never a try with us. We always do. We never fail. We are not the triers. We are the claimers, the conquerors. James pursed his lips. Yeah. You should be bowing at my feet right now. Nah, that's not really how we do things around here, buddy. James straightened up, stretching out his shoulders and neck. We're not big into the whole bowing thing here. Got a bad history with it. We're simple folk, none of that praising jazz. You don't bow? You don't worship something grand? Oh no, buddy, we do worship something grand here. We take a lot of pride in it too. James tilted his head in curiosity. Yes? James's gaze turned serious, his whole body locked into something frightening, something beyond his simple self. He spoke simply but with immense weight. Passion. The word struck Eeks, sending a chill down his spine. It shook him to his core. There was a coldness in the way it was said, so elegant, so quick, so simple, that it should have been his warning to leave. Eeks blinked, shook his head, and reasserted his impatience. You realize we're here to eliminate you all, yes? Yep. That was our guess. Even Jenkins got that one. Ain't that right, Jenkins? Damn right, sir. See, even Jenkins picked up on that one. Eeks sneered. I'm only speaking to you so that I can see the realization in your eyes. Right? Well, James suddenly stood up, the speed and energy surprising Eeks. To tell you the truth, buddy, we're all quite excited for this. We haven't had a real rumble in a while, and you've really got everyone excited about it. What? Why? All shake hands before you guys do that? Wait, I don't understand. Suppose it doesn't matter. James and his crew abruptly turned and started walking off into the desert, each step playful and lazy. James raised a departing hand without looking back. You just let us know when this shindig begins. What? How? It doesn't matter. Shindig. Let you know. Eeks was thunderstruck by the whole encounter. He almost missed how feeble he looked. Quickly, and with obvious embarrassment, he straightened up and shouted after the humans, "These are your people's last moments. Let it be known that what is about to happen will be tragic, horrible, and it will be us, the conquerors, the claimers, who did it." James's voice was distant now, disappearing behind the wind, just like his body. All right, buddy, all right. X charged back into his transport, hot with fury. These ignorant beasts, he shouted into the empty air, the egots with him silent and concerned. These insolent, dirty things will pay. They will pay. When he returned to his ship, he burst into the command chamber and screamed his orders, so loud and bitter that no one hesitated. Send everything. Send the land cruisers, the soldiers, the ships. I want this place glassed. I want it leveled. Kill every living thing in sight. The war machine roared to life. Thousands of transport ships carried millions of egots onto the strangely quiet Earth. Great drilling lasers exploded out from the large knives, and millions of lasers burst from the barrels of cold, calculated energy weapons. Eeks himself left his ship again, watching from a floating, protected platform. But as the egots raged, they found themselves attacking only Shell's empty houses, barren towers. Not a single human was in sight. Eeks gripped his observer tightly as he watched the monitors, read the reports, and saw with his own eyes that nothing was around. Where are they? He screamed. Where did the rats hide? Then, right under his ship, about 200 yards ahead of an egot advancing line, hidden in a thick line of trees and shrubs, a small shimmer appeared, a reflection in the sun's light. Eeka screamed and pointed. There. They're there. Some men ran up to inspect, and Eeks himself zoomed in a camera to see the hiding human. He smiled as the screen zoomed closer and closer and closer. Is that one of those metal slingshots? What do they call it? In Alaska. The muzzle lit up with fire, and not just it, but hundreds, thousands more burst forth from the tree line. The attack was instant and furious. EGOT weapons were energy-based, quiet and advanced. When they hit something alive, they simply drained the life from it. No scars, no mess, just alive, then dead. It was elegant, refined, the only proper way to fight. But as the horizon thundered with gunfire, as the sky lit up red with missiles, grenades, artillery, and the EGOTs saw the true nature of humanity's silly weapons. When the first EGOT was struck by a bullet, it didn't just die, as it would with an energy weapon. It was shredded apart, its leg torn from its torso, flesh exploding upon comrades in a horrific, screaming spray. Their eyes sank as they realized they were in a reality they weren't prepared for. Eeks, from the vantage of his observer ship, watched as the battlefield transformed from an organized, proud EGOT march into a terrifying bloodbath, a horror show of war and death. The worst part was that it wasn't one-sided. The humans were dying too, in droves, yet they weren't terrified. In the heat of battle, they grew even angrier, more ferocious. It made them stronger. The egots had never seen this before. They'd never fought a battle so animalistic, so primal and vicious. This wasn't their grand plan, their holy way. It was carnal. Only animals could create such insanity. An explosion struck Ix's ship, sending him tumbling down in a twisting, dizzying crash, slamming into the earth. He was caked in dirt, covered head to toe in brown, sticky earth mixed with his own purple blood. His ears rang, and he swayed as he tried to stand. When he finally leveled his gaze to the horizon, he saw it the real perspective. He was in it. In the flying lead, the screaming men, the popping, bursting explosions from every direction, the whizzing, screeching planes, jets and missiles. He was amidst the horror show, the terror of man and their simple weapons. He couldn't comprehend it. He couldn't grasp what was happening. They were all so unevolved, their bodies, their guns, their planet. How could this be happening? His communicator buzzed, and in his ear, he heard the concerned voice of the expansive one. Ikis. She was furious. What is happening there? We are receiving report after report of disaster. Ikis began walking amongst the dirt, the corpses, and the chaos in between the flying, ruthless death whizzing past his ears. Their weapons, his voice was exhausted, drained of all confidence. Yes, you said they were simple. Yes, yes, they are, he replied, watching as one of their grand knife-like ships, miles long and the pride of his people, succumbed to a fiery explosion and began crashing down. That's the problem, great one. What? His mind flashed back to the thought of James and his two carefree, casual friends. He should have seen it in their eyes, in the way they walked and talked. It's It's not the simplicity that's the problem. It's all basic, all trivial technology. A few dozen yards ahead, he saw three humans, guns in hand, muzzles blazing with fury, their eyes equally mad, intense and energetic. They screamed, just as their guns did, and together, in unison, machine and man, they made a powerful charge. They're simple, he spoke slowly, quietly. But that's not it. It's the passion, the passion, my queen. It's horrifying. Stars, it's horrifying.